also called media. And that doesn't exist on the right. And so it's harder to get people to just fall in line with a certain simplified message. What's up, Two-A-Days?
So what about big voices like that are kind of down the middle, like a Bill Maher or Joe Rogan? What does that do for the landscape of media? Because they're not really one-sided or the other. They're kind of just down the middle, but still huge voices for people who are wanting to learn about all of this.
Yeah.
Bill Maher down the middle?
Ish.
Well, so it's a good point. And I wrote about this last week. It's true. Like, Trump went after Rogan. A lot of conservative influencers, I guess is what you call them, like Cat Turner went after Joe Rogan. But it's true that while Rogan is not part of the quote unquote team, him criticizing liberals has more impact than Mark Levin doing it, because Mark Levin's audience is mostly conservatives. So they already probably don't like Kamala Harris. But Rogan doing it matters because some of his listeners probably like Kamala Harris. But I think here's where I'd push back. So we saw this last week. Tim Pool, with a huge YouTube audience, he's very adamant. He thinks Trump's in trouble. He thinks Trump is losing in the polls. But you have other conservative pundits who say, oh, it's all a lie. Trump is winning in the polls. I think that matters because I think Trump and his campaign are probably going to side with the ones that say, well, this is all nonsense. We're still winning. And that's been part of my issue with the way the Trump campaign has handled this. I don't know that they're really considering all factors of this. Like, they loved the polls when he was up by a lot against Biden. Now they don't believe in them. I don't think that's a smart strategy at all. So I think it does. Diversity in conservative media benefits in some ways, but I do think this fragmented landscape gives people a lot of false hope, and then some other people some really negative hope. And I just look how the liberal media gathered together to say, hey, Joe Biden's out, he needs to go. That mattered. I would love to see conservative media unify to tell Donald Trump, hey, what you're doing is not winning. Change this immediately. The side that's defending him, saying, oh, everything's going great, that's what annoys me.
So what you're talking about is messaging. So when I push back on you about, well, yeah, I mean, so Tim Pool's an interesting example because I don't know. I think he's libertarian-ish. I don't know what is like. He probably has some pretty profound disagreements from whoever it is he's getting in a fight with on Twitter. I don't know who we're talking about, or me. He and I probably have some pretty profound disagreements at some policy or philosophical levels. I don't know. I think we might. I don't know. But what you're talking about is a fight between individuals on messaging, and that's about whether or not it's, you know, your job is to accurately describe reality or not. And I think in that situation, Tim is trying to accurately describe reality. He's not saying something to effectuate an outcome. He's not saying it to help or to hurt. He's just saying it is. He's saying this is the case. This is not helpful. And those that want to effectuate an outcome are like, no, it's almost like the LeVar Ball strategy of media. Speak it into existence. Yeah, no, it's always going great, and always say it's going great, and therefore it will go great. And I don't believe in the speaking into existence. I mean, I get positive mindset and positive visualization, and I even get that perception. Hey, I even get that perception can become reality, that you can warp people's minds that way. But I appreciate what Pool's doing there in trying to accurately describe what he thinks is reality. The thing about the left is they are always on the same page messaging-wise. The only time we've ever seen them off the same page messaging-wise was the tail end of Joe Biden. Like, there were still some hangers-on, like David Pakman, who came on this show. Oh, no, Joe's fine. He's not on any performance enhancers. He's solid. You know, and you had that, and then you had some people starting to go, this was even after the debate, where the debate was the big breaking point, where all of a sudden they all got on different pages messaging-wise, and some of them couldn't help but accurately describe reality. And then there was the ones that were holding out going, no, don't accurately describe reality because we want to speak it into existence that Joe is okay. Outside of that, they're pretty good at staying on the same page messaging-wise. I'll give you, the right may share a lot of philosophical and principled agreements, but they're not. There is no cohesive messaging unity.
Yeah, in some ways that works to an advantage. I think I've told you this, Rachel, this. I think what makes your weekend show probably the best show of any trio on television is you're very different than your two co-hosts. You might have the same end goal, but I think it makes it interesting that you guys arrive at conclusions in very different ways. You don't get that, say, on Morning Joe. They're all starting and ending at the exact same point.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what your next question is, but it strikes me that like you keep saying like how we're different. I don't know. My main thing is I think right now America, forget conservatism, Republicans, it needs to have a positive vision. The compass has to be pointed towards achievement. Right. And right now, conservative media is too reactionary and negative. And what I mean by that is I have always respected and appreciated and gravitated towards inspiration like frontiersmen, pioneers, and entrepreneurs. And those people don't go about their life going, here's everything that's wrong with the world. They're not afraid of it, but their answer to what's wrong with the world is, and I'm going to create my vision of tomorrow that looks like X. And that was Ronald Reagan. That was Morning in America. And I think you have to have a sunnier, more positive. And it's not, the point isn't to be chicken, is it, to be an ostrich, sticks your head in the sand. Chicken Little says the sky is falling. The point isn't to, live in la la land. The point is you need action. And in order for action, you've got to have a positive vision to know which way to effectuate action. And that's missing. It just feels like a little bit always like dig your heels in, be negative, tell us what's wrong.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the previous topic. What's interesting is while so many people say that they looked up to Rush and want to be like Rush, nobody's actually like Rush because what made him so powerful, and he really was, that he would tell conservatives, I think mostly rightfully, yeah, all these institutions are against you, but we can still win this fight. And Bill O'Reilly had a lot of that in him as well. He would say, look, everybody's lying to you, but here's the truth, and you can still take back control of this country. That is completely missing from this era of conservative media. And like I have a lot of friends in the industry, as do you. Not many of them very positive. They're pretty doom and gloom. And I think that some positivity is missing because at the end of the day, this really is still our country, meaning the voters. We, at least in theory, decide who runs this country. We decide what corporations are powerful by what we buy and don't buy. It's not like we're defenseless. We're just made to feel like we're defenseless.
All right, what else do you have in the mailbag?
All right, this is a good one. This is from Brandon from Denver. He said, hey guys, Will and Bobby, me and my sons have been playing the new college football game religiously. They've never been into college football, but I think their interest in the new game will grow the popularity in college football among younger fans. What say you?
Yes. I mean, I'm seeing it in my own household. My 16-year-old is into college football 25. And I think it's not only inspired a little more interest in college football, but college in general for him. It's not that he doesn't want to go to college. He's just kind of, I don't know. He's one of these kids, he just doesn't think about it all the time. Like, where do I want to go to college? What's the right place for me? But seeing this college football game is, I think it is influencing him. By the way, having just got done this weekend of hanging out with like 100 Navy SEALs, I mean, it sets me back on that path of like, is college what you really want to do? Right. There's just, I had Eric Prince on the show, the founder of Blackwater, the private contracting business, yesterday on the Will Cain Show. And I was reading about Eric yesterday, and there was a quote or something about why he founded Blackwater or what it was. He worked as an intern in the White House under George H.W. Bush. And he was like, there's nothing more depressing than walking the halls of HUD and HHS. And like, you want to see Leviathan and a lack of action. Wow. And he was inspired because he needed action. I don't mean like adrenaline rush, to do something. This is like that messaging I was talking a minute ago, like being around those guys like I was around this weekend, understanding this country needs action, understanding that a fulfilled life is actually action. I'm a little bit like, is college the answer for raising young men?
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, I'm pretty down on the entire college idea, mostly because, and again, maybe where I grew up, but most of my friends that didn't go to college are doing very well driving trucks, laying tile, farming. And they didn't have to go through all of the ills of a college education, whether it be dad or I don't know, end up working at some office where your skin color and gender decide your exact level of success. But at the same time, there is a maturing process of college that I think does stick with people because you have roommates, you have a community. And on a lighter
Yeah,
note, back to college football, when you're out at a bar and somebody's like, hey, I went to U of M, I went to Ohio State, that's something they're proud of forever. They meet up with their friends every year to go back to a game. So I don't want to dismiss that impact of college, the sense of community that we all need.
absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, I met a Navy SEAL that went to Pepperdine this weekend.
Wow.
So he did
Have
his
you
4
played
years
the
in
new-
college, and then he signed up. Yeah, I've played it. I've played it. I smoked my son. He doesn't get it.
What team do you
He
play
doesn't know
as?
he doesn't know how to execute plays.
I thought you were bad.
I
You
played.
said.
I've gotten better.
Oh,
And
boy.
I've learned. Throw it to your primary read.
Oh, you're gonna be an easy beat.
All right, one final question here, and this
listen.
comes from Dan from Bloomington, Illinois. It's a long one, a pretty good one. He says, I thought Roseanne, is that what it is? Roseanne? I can't.
Roseanne.
Roseanne said it best that the Harris-Walz campaign isn't a presidential campaign, but an IQ test. The same people who fell for the COVID mandates, masking, the Ukraine war, Russia collusion, the Trump PP tapes are falling for the repackaging of the worst VP in U.S. history. Do we have any hope if people fall for this? Wow.
That's very well said.
It is.
The one thing that we can't account for in the way that everybody's falling for everything is the role of Donald Trump. I just don't know what the world looks like without Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know after Donald Trump. People define themselves as pro or anti. They just do. And there's nothing that you can do. Like everything you just named, do you think in the end, like masking. Masking was a proxy for Donald Trump, was it not? You wore your mask if you were anti-Trump,
Right.
and you didn't wear your mask if you were pro-Trump. Like we can do this across the board on all these things. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't have, but it definitely became signals and markers. And I don't think there's anything much deeper. And we know this because of the way the parties have flip-flopped positions on so many issues, including the war in general, right? That's a big one. As a reaction to how they feel about Trump. And I don't know what the world looks like without Trump. I don't think anti-J.D. Vance or pro-J.D. Vance, or I don't know if it had been Ron DeSantis, if it just flips, and the world defines itself along terms of pro and anti-Ron DeSantis. I just think we're gonna take the gravitational force of society out at some point. Meaning he's gonna die, or we're gonna move on as a society, and then we're gonna re-scramble the world again.
Yeah, and so I'm just thinking here, reading this question. So, why did Donald Trump win in 2016? I would argue, Will, that a very happy nation probably doesn't elect someone like Donald Trump. A nation that's really fed up with permanent Washington probably elects Donald Trump, right? A desperate nation. Chuck Todd had a column about this on Saturday. It was actually really well written. He goes, politics are not always that complicated. Usually, people decide, are they happy with the country or are they not? But this is what's throwing me off. Americans are not happy with the country. All polls say that, including a new YouGov poll. Yet, they're being sold in a way that Kamala is the answer to it. and maybe the idea is we weren't happy under Trump, so we just want someone new. One of my predictions that I'm really confident in going forward is we're going to see a lot more one-term presidents because Americans are